Hey guys, it's Teddy Warlock here, and I'm here to talk about my favorite character in Paladins, Grohk. As many Paladin players already probably know, Grohk got some recent changes to his kit, along with some balance changes. Despite all these changes, however, Grohk is unfortunately still on the bottom of the tier list when it comes to the supports. You could probably go as far as to say he's most likely one of the worst supports in the game, which is very sad. He has a lot of utility on him, but I feel that Hi-Rez just didn't buff him enough in the right areas. The buffs are good, the buffs he got are really nice, but I don't think they prodded him along into the right areas. Now I have a few ideas that I would like to share in this video about how to make Grohk better and maybe even get him into the meta. He really needs the boost to get him out of the really low end of the tier list, possibly into S tier. I would absolutely love to see him into S tier, as I'm sure everyone would with their favorite character in the game if they already aren't S tier. Back in OB63, all the supports had a crazy amount of HP. Grohk's was, I believe, like 25, and you could increase it to 3,000, something like that. It was pretty crazy. Now all the supports' health was reduced down to 2,200, all except for Grover, who has 2,300. I kind of feel this was a bad move. Why do I say that? Well, we're in a burst damage meta right now. Everyone uses the builds that do the most amount of damage in the shortest amount of time. Reducing all the supports' health I feel was a bad mistake to begin with, even before the burst meta came around. Supports like Grohk fell from popularity just because he became squishy. He was actually kinda tanky back when he had more health. Kinda like all the other supports, but Grohk was probably one of the most tanky out of them. I feel in order to make Grohk better when it comes to combat is to increase his HP up to maybe 23, or maybe even go as far as to make it 2,500 again. Look at his playstyle. He has to sit with the tank, and he's very aggressive. He's always on the front line because of how aggressive he is and how his kit works. Very, very aggressive gameplay that you have to use with Grohk. Unlike all the other supports, Grohk has to be on the front lines in order to fight. Saris can hang back and heal. Genos has to hide and seek and heal. Pip usually hangs around in the back or on the outlines or on the high ground. He doesn't really fight much either. The only other support that can fight up close with allies is Grover. Grover's interesting because he has long ranged attacks that deal more damage based on how far he is from a target. But the thing is, his heal has to be close to allies, so he has to either stick with them or be selfish and try to get that bonus damage off. Grohk is an off healer. He functions a bit like Grover, but he has to be a little bit more aggressive because he has no long ranged attacks save for shock pulse. I'm not saying give him just incredible amounts of health, or raise up all the other supports' health to massive amounts of health. Their health should match the same way as their playstyles are. Grohk has to be in the thick of things. He has to be in the fight. He has to be with a front line in order to do well. He has to be in the fray. Therefore, he should have more health to be able to survive the encounters more because of how much he's going to be in combat, unlike all the other supports. Now that we've gone over Grohk's health issues, let's go over his base kit, starting with his damage. Or more like just his weapon and ammo. I rather enjoy the 30% more damage that the buff gave. I wasn't expecting it, and it's really, really nice. The ammo seems fine for 100, and the charge up time is pretty nice, although I feel the charge up for his ammo to come back could be a little bit shorter. But apart from that, I feel his weapon's pretty solid and shouldn't require any major changes or any other changes apart from that, honestly. Now for his L2, Shock Pulse. I feel Shock Pulse is completely fine. It shouldn't have any other changes to it. It's really good when amplified with Maelstrom, although I personally don't like playing as Damage Grohk. I just don't like how it's played. So I don't think that should be changed, unlike the next ability I'm about to talk about. Now for Grohk's R1, Ghost Walk. I feel Ghost Walk is kinda underwhelming. It can be a nice escape to dodge ultimates, but I feel it's very underwhelming when compared to Maldamba's. Maldamba's is very good, and he does practically the same thing. Become ethereal, can't be targeted, cleanses any debuffs. But he moves forward, and it's a really nice escape, unlike Grohk, who just gains a 20% movement speed, and it only lasts 1 second. I don't think that's really good. I feel Ghost Walk should get a decent buffer change. And I think 12 seconds is a little too long for an escape. I think it should be, the cooldown should be reduced to 10. But in return, his card that increases the duration and cooldown of Ghost Walk would probably be nerfed a little bit in order to compensate for that. I think that he should gain a 25% or maybe even a 30% movement speed for probably increasing the time of 1 second to maybe 2 or 2.5. Now for Grohk's L1, Healing Totem, which is his main source of healing. I feel that the Healing Totem has very little HP. I feel like it just keeps getting killed every time I even throw it down to help an ally, even with a very high Monolith Totem card. Especially if someone's running Bulldozer. I think the health of the totem should get buffed to 1500, or maybe even just a flat out 2000 health. Not 3000, that'd be ridiculous. I think 2000 or 1500 would be a nice buff to the Healing Totem's health pool. I like the fact that you can send it a good distance away for allies. But and I also feel the heals are a little bit less. Yes, he is an off healer, but he's meant to heal a lot of allies. Grover heals more than him, so why can't Grohk heal a decent amount as well? 420, I feel that's too little. It could probably be buffed to 500. Just give him a little bit of an edge against other healers. 15 seconds is probably a little too long. So I think it could be reduced to maybe 14 or 13. Maybe even 12 seconds. But you would definitely have to nerf Gale, the card that reduces the cooldown whenever you Ghost Walk. Because you could probably just toss out 2 totems at once with that, and that would be a little bit too crazy. Just some thoughts though. Now for Grohk's ultimate, Tempest. I love the buff, the increased duration, but I do not like the flight. I feel the flight is completely out of place. I mean, yes, you can get to high ground with it, but I just don't feel the flight was necessary at all. The duration was nice, and it deals a decent amount of damage, and it can turn the tide of battle quite quickly, especially since it can speed up allies. I also hope they remove the bug from, which is all travels extremely fast, and you can just travel across the map, just surging with power. But apart from that, I feel the ult is pretty nice, and I don't think I could use any other changes, except for maybe removing the flight, but that's just my personal opinion, because I just don't like the flight mechanic at all. Now let's go over his legendary cards or talents. It doesn't really matter, I call them both, even though I prefer legendary. Let's start with Wraith. Wraith is just bad. There's never a circumstance where you absolutely need to use Wraith. You just don't need it. It's a horrible talent. You should never use it. How I think it should be better, I think it should just be reworked, not buffed at all. Maybe it could still affect Ghost Walk. Maybe make it to where you can heal yourself while in Ghost Walk. Or maybe when you drop a certain amount of HP, you drop down a healing totem to heal yourself, or any allies that are near you when you drop below that HP. I don't really know how else you could change this. It could probably maybe just give it some quality of life changes or some additional effects. But in its current state, Wraith is just bad. You never want to use this. Now let's look at Spirit's Domain. At first, when I heard about this, replacing the old Spirit's Domain, I kind of scoffed at it. But then I played it and I actually kind of enjoyed it. Sure, I wish they could have changed the old Spirit's Domain, but I still like this. Now there's one thing that absolutely puzzles me with this talent. When Grohk damages an enemy, he deals 30% more damage the longer he hits an enemy. It accumulates. But when you're healing an ally consistently, it doesn't do the same for them. I think that Spirit's Domain should have that quality of life change to where you're healing an ally. You'll heal them for 30% more the more you hit them. Just accumulated. That would actually be really nice, and I think it would make sense, particularly since the staff does increase damage. So why not just do that to Spirit's Domain? Now for Maelstrom. This is the one thing on Grohk that I feel should not have been touched at all. It didn't need a nerf or a buff. It was already good to begin with. Now it got buffed, and this Maelstrom Grohk is just absolutely insane. Especially with morale boost, because you get your ultimate charge so fast. It's unbelievable how fast you can get it. I just don't like the fact that they buffed this, because it's just absolutely insane. I've been on the receiving end of this, and it's wow. It's just ridiculous, especially on Frog Isle. If you want to go damage Grohk, this is a pretty viable option, especially since it got buffed. But for me personally, it's just not for me. I hate playing Maelstrom. Now let's finish it off with his healing talent, Totemic Ward. I love the fact that you can give yourself and ally CC immunity while they're standing within the healing field. But I just don't like the fact that they nerfed the healing from 50% to 40%. I feel it should go back to 50, or they could just keep it at 40% if they do decide to increase the amount of healing the totem gets. Because I feel 50% of 500 would just be, that would be too much. So 40% would probably be good if they increase the healing amount of the totem. But if it stays the same, it should go back to 50. The nerf was just uncalled for, especially since it was nerfed before his little rework. The CC immunity is just absolutely beautiful. It's really life-saving in certain situations, especially when the enemy has a Makoa or a Khan. It just interrupts everything and keeps you from being grabbed or hooked. I feel like the CC immunity should last maybe 1 second longer if they leave the healing circle, just for some extra survivability. But apart from that, I feel like Totemic Ward is already good. And maybe they could add an additional effect where it increases the health of the totem by 500 or 1000 HP. That would make it pretty viable, and it would actually be pretty insane. Well, that was all the suggestions and ideas I have to make Grohk better. I really hope he does get more buffs in the future, because he's just my favorite character, and I just want to see him get higher in that tier list. Maybe even be able to have him viable and competitive. I just really hope he gets better soon than he already is. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Teddy Warlock, signing out.